The Flex Network. Flex on everybody.
Oh, yes, everybody. This is the Flex Network back again for another Saturday night showdown hammer monster throbber with your boys here from the Flex Network. We have one Mr. Alan Seslowsky at ALANSES Low Sky. Alan Seslowsky, what are you doing tonight, brother?
Are you armed there with a white claw? Is that what I see right there, peeking above the top? I see a little claw in the side of your claw.
Oh, yes. And yes, the Tangerine Dream, of course, is what I like to call her. And I am Flex Matt, your residential crazy person who also is your residential good looking analyst here. And yes, says Lowski, I am drinking a White Claw, and I've got another at the ready, says Lowski, of course.
I'm trying to take a look here. Move to the left a little. I want to see what that is. What is that? Is that a sash? Oh, it's a belt. What is it?
It's a fanny pack.
Oh, okay.
I'm wearing it as like a title belt.
Yeah. No, yeah, I see. It
that's
works.
My
I
thing.
like it.
It's over the shoulder. The fanny pack over the shoulders. The real thing, says Lowski. Who wears them around the waist anymore?
Yeah, no, I always wished fanny packs were more in style when I was growing up because they're so functional, but yet, when I was growing up in the 90s, they were just, it was not something you would ever dare wear in public.
Says Lowski, when you grew up, it was in the 1960s, you old bag of dirt, you. How old are you, says Lowski?
44 years of age. So I graduated high school in 1994. So it was the 90s.
1994, this guy graduated high school. Okay. There was Naint a computer around in the 94, huh? Tell me about it.
Well, there was like a computer lab, and you had like 50 people sharing this big monster thing. I mean, nobody had a home computer really. Like a few people. The internet was just starting to get popular. So
says Lowski, in school, you know how they teach you how to write checks. They teach you how to type. Did they teach you how to use a credit card slider? The one.
Right.
Did they teach you how to use one of those?
No, it was all pencil accounting, writing a check, like you said. It was nothing technology related back then.
Alan Seslowsky, content contributor for at Roster Watch. Also at DFS Army, you are the season-long contributor. Also, one of the main contributors for their draft kit, which hopefully is working out for everybody this year. But yes, says Lowski, we are here tonight not only to give a couple of our famous flex plays, but, says Lowski, we are also here to talk a little bit about trades. Says Lowski, it's a real hard trade market this year. Most of you ninny lickers out there, you don't know the slightest thing about how to sell, okay? That's why most people don't go into commission sales, unlike your boy, okay, who is a commission salesman.
Now, are we talking about trading and selling for redraft leagues and dynasty leagues? Because we know that's totally two different skill sets.
Not dynasty leagues.
Okay.
No.
Regular redraft. We
gotta help the regular redraft leagues, says Lowski. Some of our leagues are on life support.
Yeah, and here's also a good tip. The larger the league and the more active starting roster spots you have in your league, the more likely trades are to get done. So just use the extremes. Like, so a 14 team where you're having like 3 receivers and 3 flexes, you're going to have more action. If you're in an 8 or 10 team league, everyone's team is good. So I've seen a lot of people get frustrated. They can't pull off these trades in smaller leagues. And it's because everyone's team is stocked. So encourage your league commissioner next year to add a couple more teams, or at least add a flex spot, and obviously a super flex.
Yes, but if you also want to just win all the money, then what instead you should do is trim the roster spots and trim the good players in the league and play only with donkeys, because that's what I prefer to do, says Lowski. But of course, I am named in a couple of those leagues this year, and I am struggling, says Lowski. Do you think it's possible for an 0-5 team to make the playoffs here?
Oh yeah, absolutely. And just let's parallel that to the real NFL. Houston, they cut off the cancer. They cut out Bill O'Brien. They won their first game. They actually have talent, and now they're going to go on a little run. I know that's a little different when you parallel it to fantasy, but if you're take a look at your total points, are you one of these teams that's literally last in points, or if you're sort of middle in the road, maybe just had some bad matchup luck, maybe you lost, you had an injury guy, and now you picked up Ryan Tannehill or Ryan Fitzpatrick to get you through if you lost Dak. I mean, you really can't go less than 7-6. I mean, that's not. You probably have to go 8-5 to even be considered in the playoff run. So you can't lose anymore. You got to ring off 8 in a row.
Well, and that's what I got to do this week, says Lowski. Now, here's the thing. Trades. Byron Lambert, Roster Watch, puts out one of the most spectacular podcasts that are even around. Go check it out. The Dynasty, or just the Trade Cast. Byron sits there for about an hour, goes through positionally the guys we should sell high on, buy low on, and also runs down the trades, the type of trades, the consolidation trades, etc. Byron Lambert at Roster Watch. Go download the podcasts now. They're fantastic. Of course, we here are pro Roster Watch. So, of course, we love that content, but we really need to suss it out for ourselves, says Lowski. Now, I'm going to start with the 5-0 teams. Okay, 5-0 teams, they should be looking to crack them eggs. Okay, I look at trades like, man, I need to find my top 3 values on my team. Let's say it's Patrick Mahomes, Derrick Henry, and whatever else it is. But my goal is to crack the one egg into two serviceable players. Now, yes, you don't want to crack the egg into the wrong serviceable players, but who, says Lowski, are we on the lookout for guys that may be able to be acquired in a trade from maybe an owner who'd be willing to part with him? I've got one, says Lowski, started off. James Juice Robinson. Okay.
Yeah. His owners aren't letting go, though. I mean, they're so proud. They picked him up on the waiver wire. They got him with the last round of their their draft, and he's RB5 overall. He's a rock solid RB1. I mean, how are you going to pry him away from? I mean, the
this
word
is
out.
how you do it, says Lowski. You take the clout. And who has some of the biggest clout on your team? It is rookie running backs. Jonathan Taylor is one specifically where, yes, he has clout, but he's also 15 points a week, which is great. I can accept that. I want that on my team. But what I also want to do is I want to crack that egg, says Lowski. I want to crack the Jonathan Taylor egg into a Juice Robinson, Hollywood Brown. Okay? Right. Hollywood Brown's owners are very frustrated with him this year. And some players, or not players, but fantasy players, had to go high on Hollywood Brown to get him this year. Okay? Like me. Some might have even reached up into the 4th round, maybe even higher. Okay, so if you can stare down the barrel of a Jonathan Taylor, a guy that for Hollywood Brown pre-draft, you were never going to get both.
Well, let's take a look. So Hollywood Brown right now is wide receiver 35. So he's a low-end wide receiver 3. It's mostly buoyed by his last week performance where against Cincinnati, he produced for you. He got 6 for 77 and a touch. The week before was a little bit more modest, but he did have 86 yards. He had 100 yards in the first week. So maybe he's not this high-end fringe wide receiver 1 / wide receiver 2, like wide receiver 13 like you expected. But I think Lamar Jackson's looked a little off, and I think that's been reflected in his production. By all accounts, he's a little bit healthier now, and I think that this might be a good time to acquire or stick with Hollywood Brown. I mean, he looks fast out there, and if they're going to start launching the ball down to him, let's see what the matchups are coming up there.
So
So
he's got
Philly,
Philadelphia, then
and
a
then the bye.
bye. So
Right.
that
So
kind of sucks. That kind of sucks. If you're going to go out there and buy him right now, you're only going to get a week. But they need that bye week offensively. They need to retool what's going on there. But he's a buy. He's a buy. He's
yeah,
one person where you have to take
you
the
like him.
feelers.
You
I
want to
like
buy
him.
him. Yeah, yeah,
I want to
yeah.
buy him. I want to buy.
Like
I want to buy the idea that I can split my eggs from a single egg to two decent performing,
oh, I see what you're saying.
potentially downsides, because Juice Robinson last week didn't look very good.
Right.
You
So you're
know,
talking about taking someone like James Robinson and getting Taylor plus.
no,
The other way
taking
around.
Taylor and getting James Robinson and Marquise Brown.
See, I think that James Robinson has more perceived value now in redraft. I think that I think the market's down on Taylor. They see that as a three-way committee. They see Phillip Rivers has not even dumping the ball off anymore. Jonathan Taylor, just by looking at the tape, he's been running into the backs of his offensive linemen. Doesn't look anything like he did over at Wisconsin. Again, Jonathan Taylor fantasy owners are disappointed. I mean, isn't it funny though? This was like the one of the best rookie class running back classes we've ever seen, and they've all largely disappointed. And it's the receivers that have actually been producing for fantasy this year. I was thinking about that the other day, and it really is a great irony of this season.
It is. And Zero RB got shit on all year. And you got guys like Juice Robinson, who's anchoring teams right now. Mike Davis anchoring teams. Yes, of course, CMC is out. You never expected it. But Jonathan Taylor still has clout. He still has clout, Seslowsky. That's what I'm trying to say. You want to sell before the clout disappears.
Oh, so you think it's going to get worse for him?
Well, it got worse for CEH. You know, after week 1, you could have had a threefer. You could have had a threefer, including someone crazy for CEH.
You know, I was looking back at some of the old videos that we made over the summer, and I know you like CEH, and for good reason. You know, there was no wrong. You know, you weren't wrong.
I was not a CEH.
Oh,
guy.
you were not. Okay, yeah. So, all right. Well, then let me retract that. Let me go back to my original point. Okay. I was in the video I was talking about in preseason that I thought he was being overdrafted early on in the second round when Damian Williams was there, because it looked like it was going to be a 50-50 split. And then when he was vaulted into the first round, when Damian Williams was put on with COVID, or actually he didn't get COVID. He opted out of the season due to COVID. And I thought that his first, the price of him on the 2-3 term was the more appropriate price, but of course he got pushed up into the top 5. And I just figured all along that Kansas City was going to add a veteran. They want a veteran running back standing next to Patrick Mahomes. I thought maybe it was going to be Devontae Freeman. I thought that maybe the Leonard Fournette situation would go there. And then, a couple weeks went on and I was like, oh, guess not. Maybe, but this makes total sense that this is not an indictment on CEH. This is what their plan was all along. And CEH, if we redraft today, he would probably be like a mid to late third round pick, where you were taking Gurley and Melvin Gordon over the summer, and Le'Veon Bell would probably be, they'd probably go back to back.
That is disgusting, Seslowsky. How would you ever think that? Le'Veon Bell, Seslowsky, gross.
What do you think? How do you think they're going to split up the touch? Do you think like 10 each or 12 each or Bell? Like, how do you think it's going to be? Who's going to favor once they get going? Like by week 9, what do you see the touch split looking like?
Okay, but why? Okay, why pull the reins back at all? I mean, what is the point? To give your rookie less play? No, I think it's just a high-end handcuff at this point.
So you think it's going to be? You think it's going to be like 16, 18 touches for? I don't think Le'Veon Bell would have gone there had
no
that.
way. He Kevin Duranted it. He picked it. When the news came out, it was between 3 teams. It wasn't even close. He was going to go to Kansas City. Duh. Get that ring. Good. Now be fine.
Yeah, I thought either Kansas City or Chicago. I talked about that with a couple people because Chicago doesn't even have a backup running back. They're using Cordell Patterson right now as their backup running back. But no, I think this is going to be a true 50-50 split. Like, I think they're each going to get about 14 total touches. I mean, Le'Veon Bell, we know he's an elite pass catcher. CEH didn't look great. I mean, Patrick Mahomes doesn't really check it down anyway, but I think this is a real problem. Like, you're still starting CEH every week, but you're not going to get what you paid for in the first round when you drafted him. So I think we're looking at a true, by week 8, week 9, like a 14 touch split, 14 touches each.
So you're saying maybe you should go and get Le'Veon Bell as a throw-in to a trade.
Yeah, I don't think Le'Veon Bell's owners are selling him cheap, though, because they're pissed off. They took him in the 4th round. They've gotten nothing out of him, and now they're actually excited about him. So they're not just going to let him go cheap.
I don't know. If something comes across my table, says Seslowsky, and it's a Derrick Henry for, Juice Robinson and Le'Veon Bell, I might take that. Just because I don't know. And Juice Robinson scared me last week, says Seslowsky. I'm scared. Okay, but I'm also talking out both sides of my mouth because I also want to buy Juice Robinson. I like Juice Robinson. But that's what I'm trying to say. If you're in the power play, you have to start cracking your eggs. Okay? And I love to say this, and I hope that people listen to this sentiment. In 1 QB leagues, you need to look to move your 1 QB. If you have Mahomes, if you have Kyler Murray, okay, those guys might be worth a lot more than you think and might be worth a lot more to somebody else's team than the guys that can be getting back. I would snap accept if I had a Mahomes, okay, and I was going to trade a QB needy team for, again, let's say it's a Juice Robinson, DJ Chark for a, and maybe a Tanyan for a Patrick Mahomes. Would that not be a snap accept in redraft?
Here's the issue. In 1 QB leagues, it's almost impossible. Everyone's happy with their QB, more or less. Everyone's happy in their 1 QB league. Now, you talked about Patrick Mahomes, so he's probably the exception to the rule. He's probably the one guy, and it was Dak until he got hurt that might have been tradable. But the problem is the guy who's the least happy with his QB situation, he's starting Matt Stafford. He's starting Carson Wentz. He started Ryan Fitzpatrick last week. This is why we advocate for Superflex. Now, you did bring up a very specific situation. Sure, if you have Patrick Mahomes and for some reason your team is not performing well, you could absolutely turn that into to a receiver and a running back. I think that he still has the name equity and the production to actually pull off a trade. But I think that's the only one. Can you think no one's trading for Kyler Murray? I mean,
there is a lot of Carson Wentz, Cam Newton teams out there.
Yep.
Okay. If that team has a decent shot of winning and maybe a couple guys on the bench, let me get a Montgomery. Let me get a Montgomery and a Chark for a Patrick Mahomes. And my backup is going to be Teddy Bridgewater. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, again, the problem with 12-team leagues, even 14-team leagues, I mean, you could always pick someone up on the waiver wire. I know in a lot of even these 1 QB leagues, teams pick up 2 QBs. But I mean, you're not going to give away assets. Maybe for Patrick Mahomes, you will, when you could kind of plug in Brett Ripp in 1 week. You could plug in.
Seslowsky, listen. Okay. We're talking to the average player here. Okay. Obviously the sharps out there. Yes. But man, if I don't get 3 guys at work coming up to me every single day, oh man, what do you think? Should I go out there and trade for Devin Singletary?
Right.
Who's this guy? Should I start Joe Flacco?
Right. You're talking about like the really casual fantasy football fan, but
of course,
see, I think you got to give the Flex Network here a little bit of credit. I think smart people are listening to the show. I think that people that have been playing fantasy football for 5, 8, 10 years, and the only way you learn is by making these mistakes. I mean, if you're trading quarterbacks in a 1 QB league or trading for a quarterback, every situation is different, but overwhelmingly that's going to be a mistake. Don't give up your running backs. Don't give up your wide receivers. Definitely don't give up a premium tight end. There's only like 1 this year or 2, maybe Waller and Kelsey, for a quarterback. And I mean, that's the advice you want to give people, I'm assuming, right? Is like, be the
that's what I'm saying.
seller on the quarterback, but absolutely don't be the buyer on a quarterback in a 1 QB league.
Yes, don't buy. Yes, actually, today I got this question. I go, "What should I do here? What I'm looking to make a splash," and I said, "You should trade Waller." Like, duh. You got Jonnu Smith. Why are you carrying
Right.
2 tight ends? Even I'm just like, what are you doing here? Well, yeah, and I go, this is it. This is it right here. People just don't even have a clue about the process. It seems like because people aren't salesmen. Okay, they go out there in a lot of these average leagues, Seslowsky. Even if you're a good player, people just don't even trade. It's because it seems like the trades are so outlandish.
Yeah, trading's hard.
It's hard. But that's what I'm trying to say. So let's educate. Let's from a dominant position of strength pick out the 3 biggest, best players on your league and be on your team and be willing to crack that egg 1 to 2. Okay, maybe it's Waller. Okay, who's trading for a tight end in a 1 tight end league? Of course, absolutely nobody. I mean, even if you've got a shitty tight end, you're not trading for Waller. Okay, but in an average league, hell yes. Okay, people are definitely going to trade for Darren Waller. And yeah, when you've got someone on the bench like a Jonnu Smith, and you can pick up somebody like a Phillip Lindsay, okay, who might be a league winner by the end of the season. Who knows? But let's go out and grab that guy. Let's go out and 2 for trade for a tight end or 2 for trade for a quarterback, Seslowsky. What do we do if we're 2 and 3, Seslowsky?
Yeah, 2 and 3, you probably lost a game by a couple points. You're very much in it. I don't think that anyone's in it or out of it if it's a full 13-game fantasy season. Just keep grinding. Like I said, you probably had a couple heartbreaking losses that could have gone the other way. So absolutely, just keep doing what you're doing. Fantasy football. It's tough because you really do need to grind every week. Now, this year more than ever, you need to just say your waiver wire runs normally on Tuesday or Wednesday night. It's equally as important to participate in that second run of waivers where it's either free pickups or there's just another run of waivers. And because sometimes the better pickups in fantasy football are the players that other owners dropped. If someone dropped Alexander Madison 2 weeks ago, you scooped him up, you're sitting good right now. That happens all the time. People draft the high yield handcuffs, the Tony Pollard types, the Duke Johnson types, and then they don't produce for them, but I don't know what they were, and then they drop them. J.K. Dobbins may have been dropped in your casual league. It's very possible. So it's not just important to pick up the Chase Claypool, the hot free agent for the week. It's super important more than ever. If you're 2 and 3, grind the waiver wire. That second run of waivers is just as important.
Seslowsky, I dare not ask this question on live air. Full PPR flex, Hines, Gore, Beasley, or Moss. And it is gross out there, Seslowsky, for your fantasy teams. But Cole Beasley, sure. I mean, at any point in time, Cole Beasley is going to rattle off. I was sitting there with Gabriel Davis against a Cole Beasley last week, and yes, this is trash, but I love it. This is why I love fantasy football. But man, that third quarter, Cole Beasley snapped off like 6 of them, 6 catches all of a sudden for like 70 yards, and the guy was swimming in points out of nowhere. So I like Cole Beasley. I love this guy.
Yeah, I mean, certainly has a solid, rock solid floor. I always like Zach Moss's touchdown equity, but yeah, I mean, that's, any of those are good. I think that Frank Gore is a live play this week without Le'Veon Bell there, but I personally would play Moss, but there's, I could see it going either way. That was Yeager. Did you see the trade that I made with Mike Yeager in our Dynasty League this week?
Yeah, where you fleece this guy? I mean, really? I only look at it that way because to me, I mean, the proven asset for the next 5 years, yes, in Dynasty. I mean,
well,
it's
Let me ask you this. So, see, it's funny, and I'm glad that you're saying that because I feel like I overpaid, and more or less, I gave the guy 3 first-round picks, and if not, at least 2 firsts and a second. Tua, we all agree, is a top 5 super flex option. We agree on that, more or less.
More or less. I got it though.
Now, I gave him a 2021 first, which is a first round pick, and then Antonio Gibson, who undoubtedly would go in the first round if we redid our rookie draft today. So it really is like giving him 3 firsts. I feel like it's at least fair value. And if Tua pans out to be a better than average quarterback, he wins. If Tua ends up being an okay quarterback or Dwayne Haskins, then obviously I win the trade. Because what's he going to turn that 2021 first into for next year? Let's just say it's like a Justin Jefferson type of player. So let's say I finish 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th.
Well, yeah, it's going to be Chase.
Right. So let's just say, Justin Jefferson, Tua, and Antonio Gibson. That seems like a fair price to pay for Russ for a rebuilding team and a team that's trying to win this year.
In a Superflex Dynasty League?
Yes.
Heck yes. I mean, I thought it was a good trade. That's why I wasn't hating on it. I love trades. I love big trades. Yeah. And that's what I was going to get into next, Seslowsky.
Well, before you get into that, where will Russell Wilson go in Dynasty startup Superflexes next year? That's the question.
In Dynasty startups. Well, that's
Superflex.
Yeah, I mean, I would probably say QB.
No, like what pick
5.
overall?
Oh,
QB 5.
overall?
I think he will go 3 overall next year.
Well, I mean, you got Mahomes, you got Lamar, you got.
No, hold on one second. You would take Lamar Jackson over Russell Wilson at this point?
Yeah, just because of the age and opportunity. I mean, and the rushing upside, which is a tremendous.
I don't know, man. I hear you with the age, but Russell Wilson, by the way, I know how much of a fan you are of Russell Wilson. You really need to, and anyone who's listening to this podcast should, if you're a fan of Russell Wilson, or even if you're not, because I'm not a super fan of his, but he was interviewed by Bill Simmons on the BS podcast, on Bill Simmons' podcast, and it just came out the other day. I'm in love with this guy, Russell Wilson, now. The way he talked about football, I enjoy it. And he said he wants to play till he's 45 years old.
Hey, any player or any person in the world, just listen to Russ like he's your home team QB and you'll fall in love with him too.
Yeah, no, this was a good interview. So
he's the greatest. He is the greatest. But I mean, for age, Kyler's number 2. Kyler would be 2. So Mahomes, Kyler Murray, Lamar Jackson, and then it would probably Russ.
Yeah, I mean, I would take, if we were doing a dynasty startup right now for next year, like we were just
number 2.
Players. I mean, you would take Mahomes at 1. You'd probably still take Christian McCaffrey at 2 because he's coming back. He's still, under contract. And then I would take, if I was on the clock at 3, I'm taking Russell Wilson. I want fantasy points. I mean, this guy's he's playing. It's not like he's playing better this year. He's playing exactly how he's always played, except they're throwing more.
Yes, and DK Metcalf is everything that the Seahawks have always wanted.
Yeah, he looks like Terrell Owens 2.0 out there, man.
Yes, I mean, I get it. Here's the other thing. How come people aren't selling Mike Davis? Okay, all of a sudden Mike Davis is scoring 20 points a week, and you seem to forget that, yes, McCaffrey is going to be out till week 8. This is week 6. Okay, right. But why not sell him? I mean, I put a couple offers in.
Well, who's going to buy?
I am buying. Like I said, if you're a 2-3 team, you might need the next couple. If you're an 0-5 team, you need the next couple weeks.
Right.
Yeah, so to me, it's like, why are people with Mike Davis not selling?
Because, if they're the Christian McCaffrey owner, they're just riding it out until Christian McCaffrey gets back.
Yeah, but the chances of that really are pretty slim.
So, here we go. This was a good one for you. What number running back is Mike Davis since the injury? Like, is he RB what?
RB1.
He's RB1
overall.
He's RB1 overall.
Yeah,
you're
ridiculous.
You're not trading that guy.
Yeah, but I might trade him. You know what? Like, if Chase Edmonds is another one. Like, Chase Edmonds is a guy that, yes, I mean, go and get him. Go and get Mike Davis. If you're an 0-5 team, you got to shoot for now and later.
What do you have to give up to get Mike Davis, though?
Well, I hope it's not as much, Seslowsky. I hope the guys aren't listening to this podcast because I'd like to get him right now. But what about a Robbie Anderson, Seslowsky? You think this is going to keep up? Do you think we should buy Robbie Anderson?
Absolutely. He was just traded for a first-round pick in a dynasty league. I mean, Robbie Anderson is good. He's one of these guys that was on the Jets, and when you saw the talent, and it just the Jets stink was all over him. And the connection with him and Coach Matt Rule from going back to Temple, where he was his college coach, That's something that we should have talked about a little bit more in the preseason. And Robbie Anderson they identified Robbie Anderson right away. He was the first free agent signed in the offseason. They said, we want Teddy Bridgewater and we want Robbie Anderson. And that's who's going to be the main target in our passing game. This is absolutely going to keep up. This is not a fluke. If you can get Robbie Anderson from an owner that doesn't think that it's just going on the past, that Robbie Anderson was kind of like an up and down player, then go get him. I mean, Robbie Anderson is a locked in top 12 wide receiver rest of season. Not many guys you could say that about.
You can barely say that about anybody this week, says Seslowsky. What about this sentiment? Sell Claypool, buy Deontay Johnson.
Yeah.
What do you think about that?
Yeah, okay, you were talking about getting James Robinson, right?
Yes.
This is the guy. If you picked up Claypool, this is the guy that you could probably turn into one of those. You could probably get Robbie Anderson plus. People are very enamored by what they saw, and rightfully so. But absolutely, Deontay Johnson's out with an injury again, so it's I'm always fading the injury guys. But if you can turn Claypool into something right now, running back plus something like that, that's you do.
Yeah, says Seslowsky. Of course, Shane comments
right.
again. He helped you build the DFS Army draft kit. We were all pretty high on Robbie Anderson. The problem was, go ahead.
Shane identified him as his number one sleeper, and I dismissed him. So I'll give him a lot of credit that he properly identified Robbie Anderson when he was on nobody's list. And what's crazy is you could have had him in any draft you wanted. You didn't even have to push him up. If you wanted Robbie Anderson on your team, you just take him in the 8th round. He was going in the 10th, 11th round. It's unbelievable that we all missed this.
Yes, Robbie Anderson, a top flight selection. So to wrap up the trade idea for me, now it says Seslowsky, it might be different for you, so I'm going to let you take this too because everybody plays differently.
Yeah.
But for me, whether you're strong or not strong, you need to look to crack your one egg into two eggs. Okay? For me, it was Ezekiel Elliott. Yep. I drafted Zeke every single place I could. For me, I was just so high on, man, you got COVID, you're probably never going to get it again. So I was like, okay, he had COVID preseason, not going to worry about it, which was great. Then Dak came out throwing for 400 yards every game, and Zeke still looks great, but I cracked my Zeke egg to a Juice Robinson, Tyreek Hill.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Then I re-cracked my Tyreek Hill egg into a Derrick Henry, and I forget what else, and Marquise Brown. That's what it was. I cracked my Tyreek because Derrick Henry, before last week.
Yeah. The buy and early buy, unexpected, all that. Yeah, no, that makes sense.
Yes, and then, of course, Shane and we co-manned the Scott Fishbowl Satellite League, where we had, of course, Russell Wilson as our top QB of the year. We were the ones spouting that off, says Seslowsky.
Yeah, no, I was not in on Russ at all. I have him in no leagues except for the one that we just talked about.
So, yes, crack your one egg this week, guys. And here's how you do it. You crack an egg for a player that is either potentially people are down on. Michael Thomas, one of them. Okay. I acquired Michael Thomas in 3 leagues and 1 dynasty league. Yes, people are down on him. Time to start cracking your eggs on Michael Thomas. Okay. Other guys that we should maybe crack our egg on. CeeDee Lamb. Okay. CeeDee Lamb, wide receiver 1 this year, I believe.
Yeah, okay. He's a wide receiver 12 on the year. That's a wide receiver 1 in my book.
Crack that egg. Okay. Crack it. Yes, people like them rookies. They like the rookies. They want to own the rookies. Jonathan Taylor, crack the egg. CeeDee Lamb, crack the egg. Okay. As soon as you can. Says Seslowsky, who are you cracking? Or what is your dynasty or redraft trade option?
Yeah, I think most of the time the most common trades that get done in redraft are somebody has extra running backs, the other guy has extra wide receivers, and they just exchange a running back and a receiver. I think those are the most common trades. And usually you're getting the better receiver because running backs just have this boosted value just because they're running backs. Like, a couple weeks ago, just for example, a league where we start 3 running backs. I have like 5 usable ones. One of them was Darrell Henderson, so I was able to turn Darrell Henderson into Will Fuller. I'm getting the better receiver because the running backs get a little boost just because they're positionally they're hard to acquire. So I think those are the most common trades. The 2-for-1s. I mean, yeah, if you have that kind of depth and you can take two, if you have like really good running backs, you could turn James Conner and a Darrell Henderson into I like to go the other way that you were talking about is suction cup that egg back in and turn 2 marginal players that are startable into 1 elite stud. But it's very interesting what you're saying about taking the market perception on a single player and cutting that into 2 elite players, but without your league mates really understanding that those guys are elite.
For me also, Seslowsky, what I like to do is I need to make sure that whatever or whoever I'm gathering, if I am behind the 8 ball, if I'm 2-3, 1-4, 0-5, okay, I need to shoot upside. I need to grab upside for the rest of the season. Okay.
Yep. Who are some of those guys? Yeah.
Well, Marquise Brown is one of those.
That was a good one.
Again, that was definitely one of them that you can grab that does have that upside again. Chark. Okay, DJ Chark. Injuries, underperformances, but you would have to assume that the sentiment from the offseason is correct on DJ Chark. Is that the guy is good, okay? Minshew can get him the ball, and he will, okay? What about Deebo Samuel?
Yeah, no good on Deebo Samuel this year. They have like 3 or 4 players that do the same thing. Those short passes, they're glorify. They're like,
I didn't get it, Seslowsky. Why draft Ayuk? The guy's the same receiver. It seems like to me.
Right. I think they have too much. You need one guy that runs the deep route. You need one guy that does the short intermediate stuff. You have George Kittle for the seam. It seems like they brought in too many of the same types. And on top of that, they're having actual real quarterback problems, and that could just derail the whole thing. It looks like Jimmy G is either he's banged up or is below the threshold for functional. That's what's so interesting about Dallas is that people are thinking that Andy Dalton can still hold the line. In San Francisco with Deebo Samuel, I'm completely out. I need a show me week before I start him, and I'm certainly not trading for him. A couple of the wide receivers you talked about that you may want to that could finish the season strong. I think Mecole Hardman has a chance. I know you've always liked him. With Sammy Watkins out, I just want a little taste of that Patrick Mahomes pie, and I think that Mecole Hardman, he might even be on your waiver wire, and if he's not, he's certainly gettable. And the other, someone said play the song. Which one is that for?
That's probably for Mecole.
Yeah, but I'm saying these guys are so gettable. They're and they could end up finishing as a top 24 wide receiver. The other one is that people might be looking to think they're getting one over on you by selling Brandon Cooks. I think he's an absolute buy. They were scared off by the bagel 2 weeks ago, the big 0 he put up. But Brandon Cooks, he could be the best wide receiver on that team now that Bill O'Brien's gone. I know he has a concussion history, but why the hell not? He's still very gettable in these leagues.
You can get Brandon Cooks for a bag of peanuts in redraft, guaranteed. Yeah, and you know what? The owner's happy to sell him.
Right, and he just had the big week, so the owner's probably like, "Oh, I'm selling high. I'm getting whoever." But yeah, going back to your first question is who are these? Deebo Samuel. I mean, what are your thoughts there? I don't see it with any of those guys.
Well, it's just tough. It's tough to say if Jimmy G is going to quarterback this team or not, because if he is, then it seems like Deebo's going to be a decent person to have, decent person to keep on your roster, because I feel like their connection is good. Plus, they already know what they can get from him. They're testing out Ayuk everywhere, and sometimes that's probably not going to add up some weeks, and some weeks going to be great. Some weeks going to score 36 points because he's good. And that's what Deebo does, but they know exactly what the role Deebo is. I think they're going to try to turn Ayuk into an outside receiver, even though he should just be playing the same role Deebo's playing. But that was the Seahawks' problem for the longest time. They had a bunch of Tyler Lockett's and Doug Baldwin's, and they never had a DK Metcalf. So until you can produce that type of receiver, which is fucking impossible to do so, first of all. I mean, DK Metcalf comes around once in a blue moon. Julio Jones, once in a blue moon. And Michael Thomas isn't necessarily once in a blue moon, but when you're the slant boy on your team and you've got
and he just catches everything too. He's unbelievable catch rate. Another player though that I think that if you can make a quick deal for him before the games kick off, I think that there is a buying opportunity here. I still believe in DeAndre Swift. He was my number one running back in this class coming out. We've talked about that 1,000 times, but they just haven't used him properly yet. And I think coming out of the bye, they're going to absolutely start thrusting him into the game plan. I would even overpay, and I'm putting that in air quotes, because I think that he's going to finish the season strong, and you're gonna be happy you traded for him. And I don't know about the other rookie running backs at this point.
Well, clout, says Lowski. We talked about it. The clout is actually detrimental to your fantasy football game, and that's why you should never have that personal love for guys. And I love seeing these tweets because it's like, yeah, hey guys, listen, stop sending me shitty offers for Cam Akers, because the reason why I have him is because I was the one high on him preseason. Okay, so you're not going to be able just to chum together some stupid trade, but Dobbins was the guy that's got Dobbins is the guy that loves Dobbins. You know, you're never going to get him. But that's why I'm trying to say that the Jonathan Taylors, those eggs need to be cracked. Okay.
Yeah.
Everyone loves Jonathan Taylor. Everyone. I think everyone wants him, would love to just have him for clout. So crack that egg and don't be afraid to do it, says Lowski. Flex plays on the week, just a couple nuggets, just a little bit, says Lowski. And I want to hear who's going to take us to that first win, says Lowski, in some of our 0-5s, or who's going to just flex on our league mates this week, says Lowski. Hit me with numero uno.
So when you talk about flex plays, you're talking about, I mean, this is one of those bye weeks. You're probably a little bit desperate for a player. You mentioned him earlier. I am very confident that you're going to get a very productive week out of Philip Lindsay. You know, I know you talked about him before a little bit on the show, but I think he's a lock and load. I mean, Melvin Gordon's not playing. He's been basically ruled out. He did not travel with the team. Philip Lindsay is a good running back. Royce Freeman has proved that he's kind of just a marginal player. He's a plotter. He's probably a below average, and he's not long for the NFL, especially on this team. Philip Lindsay, I'm projecting him for about 18 touches, and I think that he could be a top 5 running back this week, and you're plugging him into your flex. That's my number one flex play.
Yes, says Lowski. Of course. Melvin Gordon, he was released from team activities due to an illness. Yes, he's still hung over. Okay, that's all that is. Okay, you ever had one of those, says Lowski? A nice Saturday night that you feel on Wednesday and Thursday that you just know you're not going to be able to do, you know, anything until that Sunday morning. And then you got to lace the pads up and go ahead and go tackle, you know, get tackled by 280-pound monsters. Yeah, right, says Lowski. Give me all the Philip Lindsay in the world.
Good.
Okay.
I'm glad you agree with it. What's your first flex play?
This guy stinks all year. All year, says Lowski, but his targets have been averaging about 5 targets a game, but this week might be a get-right game, says Lowski. Listen, Kyler Murray threw for 380 yards last week, says Lowski, okay? And only 78 of them went to Christian Kirk, okay? Against Dallas, that's like the worst team in the league defensively, okay?
Pretty bad.
And if they're going to do something, please, the defensive coaches, listen, guys, please, we're going to triple Hopkins. I don't give a shit. Make him beat us with anybody else but that guy. Okay. So yes, give me Christian Kirk this week. Yeah. Come on, Kirk, give me a 20-pointer. Give me something. I drafted you. I've got you in all my dynasty leagues, and I've barely been able to think about playing you weekly. Christian Kirk, my top flex play this week. And if he doesn't show out, says Lowski, send me a trade for a 5th rounder. I'm accepting it. 5th rounder in Dynasty, and I'm getting Kirk off my team. because I don't like this guy anymore.
Yeah, Christian Kirk, for some reason, I just never connected with his game too much. He wasn't drafted by this regime. God knows why they won't put Andy Isabella out there, but I agree. I mean, he has had some flash production, and it could be his week. I mean, it's not a bad call at all. If you're in a week where people are desperate to fill their flex spots, I think it's a very reasonable play. It's a good one there.
Yes.
Yeah, my second flex play is a player we were all high on at some point, but in week 9 last year, or I think it might have even been a little earlier, but he suffered an ACL, and he finally looked like himself last week, and that's Preston Williams. And they're going against the Jets this week, and Preston Williams last week had over 100 yards. He scored a touchdown, and he looked good doing it. He's probably on the waiver wire. He wasn't talked about much in Chase Claypool week this week. And if he's sitting on the bottom of your bench and you have Tyler Lockett or DK Metcalf out, or if one of the Raiders receivers was your second flex player, Preston Williams, elevate him to your starting lineup. This is Ryan Fitzpatrick knows one bad half, he's sitting down. He's going to be looking for the guy he knows can catch the football when he throws it up in the air. I would say start Preston Williams proactively. Take guys out of your lineup that you're uncertain about. Push Preston Williams in.
Yes, you know what, Seslowsky, in a 14-teamer, it's crazy in a 14-teamer because you really have to plant your flag on some guys during the draft. And two of those guys later in the rounds have been Preston Williams and Curtis Samuel for me. It's really hurt me this year again on Curtis Samuel. It's hurt me. It's hurt to see that Robbie Anderson can just, shoot, DJ Moore has just,
Yeah.
But he's a guy also that you should probably go and grab just in case. And his owners have definitely soured on him. You could probably get a deal on him. But my second play this week, Seslowsky, 8 targets last week, 79 yards, a rookie, a DK Metcalf prototype in Laviska Shenault. I'm a little bit hurt, Seslowsky. Week 3, Thursday Night Football, I got all juiced. The industry got juiced on this game. Miami versus Jacksonville. It's going to be an utter it's just street ball on the yard, just air, and it didn't go well. Since then, Seslowsky, 14 points a week. We want that. When you play in your flex plays, we want 15 points no matter what. To me, that's upside. That's upside because a lot of your flex plays score 8 points, 10 points. You really want to try to put those guys in that can get you a 20-pointer, right? But you often take 8 points if it doesn't work out. So it's about making the right calculated decision, and hopefully your floor, if you can push it to 15, then you're great. Great. Plug that guy in every single week in the flex play, and that's what Laviska Shenault seems to be right now. Now, yes, Chark, being where he is, has really aided that. But I think he's carving out his own role, similar to Deebo Samuel or Ayuk, where they're putting him in a lot more adjusted situations to get him the ball. That's what I like, Seslowsky.
Remember, it was around this time last year that A.J. Brown and DK Metcalf went from just having like a solid 10-point floor to bursting onto the scene. So I think that's a very interesting and wise comparison that you make when you mention DK in the same sentence that you do Laviska, because these guys, there was no preseason. The first month was the preseason role, and Laviska Shenault showed he's got a solid floor. We haven't seen the breakout game yet. We haven't seen the 75-yard end-around touchdown. He's capable of that. He's also capable on the goal line. You saw last week the Jaguars try to do some sort of crazy trickery play with James Robinson that totally failed. Throw that play out of the playbook. But I like Laviska Shenault. If definitely push him in your lineup. That's a very good flex play.
Hit me with one last one,
Sure.
Seslowsky, as we get ready to button this up on our week 6 flex plays of the week, Seslowsky. If you don't wow me with this one, Seslowsky, you're cut. You're just cut.
All right. Well, I can give you the wow with the deep flex play, but this is not going to be my guy. I was going to talk about J.D. McKissick if you were desperate, but I won't do it to you. I won't do it to you because we like to go. We don't want to go super deep like that. I have to start him in a league, but I'm getting a lot of. I wasn't going to use this player, the wide receiver on the Jets, Jamison Crowder. I'm getting a lot of questions on him this week. And should I start Crowder or Julio Jones? Like, correct question. That is the correct question.
I know, but it sucks. It stinks. It stinks. That's a stinky question.
Yeah. Well, Jamison Crowder in fantasy points per game. I know that's like a little bit of a shortcut statistic, but he's played 3 of the 5 games. He's wide receiver 3. When you talk about the 3 games that he's played, he's a top 5 wide receiver. You're absolutely playing him as your flex play. So if you're going to ask Flex Matt, Flex Shane, or myself a question that has Jamison Crowder in it, we're probably going to tell you to play Jamison Crowder. He has this unbelievable floor, and he's shown this year he has top 5 upside. So I saw your eyes light up when I said McKissick. Is that someone of your liking as well?
It's not that it's someone of my liking. I just like the fact that you want to put your nutsack on the table.
Yeah. I mean, J.D. McKissick, if you're desperate at your flex play, and that's what this segment really is he's had 6.5 receptions the last 2 games. We love Antonio Gibson, but they're using J.D. McKissick. I would say that if you put him in your lineup, you're going to get your 10 points. It's not an upside play. It's a holy shit, I lost my 2 receivers, my other guy's on a bye. I need someone just to hold down the fort with 10 points. McKissick is your guy. If you have a lineup question that involves Jamison Crowder, don't even ask it. Just play Jamison Crowder.
Seslowsky, this is a guy that, man, there was 2 guys that in my dynasty, our dynasty, we played together, the dynasty dirt balls with the geek, okay? Fantasy football geek, DFS Army, the geek. We don't like this guy, okay? We just allow him to play with us, but we don't like him. This guy, we don't like this guy.
Terrible person.
Yes, of course. But let me tell you something. You guys let me draft Laviska Shenault in the 3rd round.
Yeah, I didn't want him. And I was totally wrong.
You were totally wrong, Seslowsky. And do you know what I did, Seslowsky? I comboed a Laviska Shenault and some change for Michael Thomas, which in the end is probably a push trade, realistically. I mean, in Dynasty, for a guy that's fire selling his team for the future, a Laviska Shenault, when you're given, I think I had to give up like a 2 in Laviska for Michael Thomas or some shit.
You ate that trade alive. There's no one on this planet Earth that is of sound, rational mind that wouldn't take the Michael Thomas side. I don't care. Michael Thomas is good to be on a rebuilding team. You need a lot more from Michael Thomas. He sold you that. Listen. We could, a year from now, I could be totally wrong, but just looking at this, Michael Thomas produced with Teddy Bridgewater last year. That just shows no matter who the quarterback is going to be, if he comes back from this injury and he looks like himself, he's going to be a monster every week, wide receiver 1.
Okay, listen, though. Comes back it's a high ankle sprain. I mean, it's not like the guy's it's impossible. It's just impossible to play through. I think you can't play through. Just take the time off, okay, and then go after it. But here's the thing, Seslowsky, and I'm going to give this to Shane. Okay, Shane, we were shutting Shane down on this fucking program. So I'm throwing F-bombs out here. I got the glasses, the fanny packs on the shoulder, and now we're throwing F-bombs.
It's Saturday night, man. You're entitled.
I'm a White Claw and a half in, and now I'm throwing F-bombs. I don't know what's going on, but Shane literally, and I just remember this so much, that I had drafted, and I forget who I had drafted. And you know what? I made a pretty crazy trade. It was Kenny Golladay for basically 2 2s, which at the time was a Denzel Mims and someone else. And I had forgotten. And yes, Denzel Mims with Trevor Lawrence is going to be a great play, which I have to sit on all year. But I think I had selected Michael Pittman. That's who it was. And ping, almost instantly, okay? Shane, and we're going to end this here. Shane pinged me instantly and goes, wow, phew, I thought for sure that you were going T. Higgins. And boy, was I wrong, because I own Joe Burrow and Tyler Boyd. So I really stood, and I just don't like to have all my eggs in the same basket. It's the only reason why I went Michael Pittman. And at the beginning of the year, I liked it. Michael Pittman does look the real deal. I'm excited to own him. But now looking back on it, T. Higgins will likely end up being a league winner this year. Probably the least talked about rookie wide receiver on the entire slate. T. Higgins with a 21-pointer, 10 points, 81% snap share, 8 targets, 9 targets, 7 targets. The guy is balling out. AJ Green is washed. Okay. If you have T. Higgins for the rest of the year, you got to throw him into the flex. They're using him. They're using him, and he's producing.
Yep.
He is a good receiver, 6'4", 210. Really an afterthought this year, says Seslowsky. If you've got T. Higgins, smoke him if you got him, says Seslowsky. Where can everybody find your wonderful content?
Yeah, just go on to Twitter at Alan Seslowsky, AlanSeslowsky. Alan Fantasy Football on Instagram. And of course, I'm on TikTok as well and LinkedIn. I'm posting my content for Roster Watch. Of course, our podcast every week, right? We do here. And I do the Waiver Wire podcast over at DFS Army. Go subscribe to that podcast. We got a lot of good stuff over there.
Yeah, your $0 bidding column. Does that not include Tua right now? I mean, the sentiment is after the bye week, as early as week 8, Tua's playing. And are you grabbing him? Are you stashing him now?
Yeah, I mean, that would be a great idea. I would probably include him next week, heading into the bye. Absolutely. I mean, in Superflex leagues, he's probably drafted already, but in a 1 QB league, he makes for a very good $0 bid after the waiver wire runs. That's a really good pick. All
right. For Alan Seslowsky, I am Flex Matt. We are the Flex Network. We hit a little long today, Seslowsky. I just love the conversation.
The ebbs and flows.
Ebbs and flows. We are getting the hell out of here. Catch us next week, week 7. And if I'm 0-6, Seslowsky, I take my pants off on air.
Flex Network. This is the Flex Network. Flex on them. Flex on everybody. This right here is the Flex Network. Yeah.